Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country Homestead. God is good all the time. Today on Homestead Happenings, I want to give you a tour of our little greenhouse and show you what we got going on in there. So let's get started. Before I get into what's inside the greenhouse, you need to understand a little history about how this got started. It's been, I would say, over 20 years ago that my husband built this greenhouse for me for the sole purpose of growing tomatoes so I could can up my own tomatoes for my Italian sauces and salsas and and the like. And at that time, being fairly new to gardening, I used to grow flowers, especially dahlias. Before that, I would buy all my tomato starts at the store, and that's how I grew it. I never grew them from seed, and I'd get a really good amount of tomatoes, and enough to can up my salsas and tomatoes to last us through the year, but just barely. Well, of course, as I started getting into trying to be more self-sufficient, learning to grow tomatoes from seed was the obvious next step. And I took a break from growing tomatoes altogether for several years because there was a lot going on in our life. And so then when we got back into the avid gardening, that was when I started wanting to learn how to grow from seed. Now, living where we live with a short growing season that's not really best for tomatoes, having a greenhouse and doing the starts can be tricky. Now, some people in our area have it down amazingly well. They get amazing starts, and so I do still buy starts. However, I buy them from a local lady that's got the start growing thing down to a fine art. Now, she uses electricity to run heat and I believe extra light. And I think she does like a greenhouse inside her greenhouse kind of thing. Now, for me, when I decided to start starting my tomatoes from seed, my goal was to do it without the use of electricity for added heat and light. And so that's my little background for what I want to tell you about these particular tomatoes that you're looking at right now. These are Amish paste tomatoes. I bought the seed from Baker Creek, as I know most of you probably have when it comes to a lot of your seed. And this is the first year of experimenting over and over again for years, the best way to do this, that I have been getting a decent crop of tomatoes, even though our summer came very late and it looks like it's already going to be over. It's already gotten cold again. And I am so surprised. I did not start my seed in the house. This was the first year I tried not starting in the house because all my seeds seemed to fail. I mean, I'd get starts and they'd do okay, and I'd eventually get some plants, but they were so far behind. These ones, though I know they're quite tall and maybe a little slender, and that's because this greenhouse, thanks to my grapevines and my peach tree, I'll show you in a bit out the window, they have overshadowed things quite a bit. So the tomatoes have to reach clear to the ceiling, as you can see, or clear to the roof, to be able to get the amount of light they need. And I also need to get in here and thin out some more leaves. Now, the lady, all these tomatoes along here are the ones I bought from that lady. Now, they don't need to grow quite as tall because they're on this east window and they get the most amount of light. Anyway, I'll explain to you what we did differently this year. And even with such a very short, cold, wet summer, I'm still getting more tomatoes off my own seed this year than I ever have before. So this was my husband's idea. You look down there and see those coolers. We picked those up, I think, for $1 a piece at a garage sale. We put the tomato starts, and it's very dirty in there from that, and my cayenne pepper starts in 4-inch pots inside these coolers. This window here is facing the south side. So we put those coolers on this shelf, and we started it rather late. I decided I'm not going to start in January, as most people would in our area, because you kind of have to. But because it's still pretty cold out here, even in the greenhouse, and not wanting to add extra heat, I waited until, I'll probably add this in later, because I'm going to have to go look at my journal to see what date it was. But I think it was real early spring or very late winter. So it might have been end of February, early March. I'm thinking right at the 1st of March. Anyway, so we put them on along the shelf here, and then put the polycarbonate over the top, and just let them start in there. And they were the best and healthiest starts I've had yet. They didn't get all long and leggy like the ones I tried starting in the house did. They were just much more healthy, and they grew much better. So anyway, that seemed to work. So I'm excited for next year. I'm going to try again and try a lot more starts and see, and possibly not buy any starts. I may still buy a couple of starts from my friend, just to ensure that I do get tomatoes. Now you can see I have basil growing, and it doesn't look super pretty right now because, well, it doesn't look super pretty very often because I harvest it a couple of times a week, and I'm dehydrating it for, you know, to have my own homegrown basil to use in my cooking and baking for the year. And all the basil you see here, well, I think all of it, there might be one plant here that was a start. I bought some starts, but I also grew seed. Now the seed that I grew, I tried some of it in the little greenhouse, in a greenhouse effect, and those didn't do quite as good as the ones I started in this pot over here. That's just a few of them. All the ones you see spread out along the shelf in other pots are the ones I took out of here to thin it out. I just put them in that pot. I started them later in the season and stuck them up in that window, and they did amazingly well. Okay, now if you watched my colloidal silver video, you can see right there that window all covered with cobwebs on the inside and sawdust, because it's the shop. There's that shattered solar panel I was telling you about. That's collecting the sun coming in from the east and keeping those batteries charged up for making our colloidal silver. Alright, so right here I have licorice root that I still have yet to stick in the ground because I have no idea where else to put it. I do have some growing in a few other places. One in particular is doing really well. The other ones are just so-so. I'm finding it definitely needs a lot of light, and the other ones are getting too shaded by other plants. And you see my cayenne peppers. I've already picked some. Again, they're way behind because of our late summer, cold and wet. But I'm getting cayenne peppers, thankfully, and they're awesome. Baker Creek seed. And maybe next year I'll start some from my own seed. But I think I still have a lot of cayenne pepper seed. And I plan on growing lots and lots more next year because I ate one of these fresh off the, believe it or not, fresh off the plant. And it was hot, but it was so good. I absolutely love the flavor of cayenne pepper more than any other pepper. Okay, and then this is one of my passion fruit plants. I have 4, and they're all varying sizes. I bought them all at the same time. They were about yay big when I bought them. Now, amongst this basil here, which I need to thin back, is another one. This is the tiniest one. This poor little guy here has been attacked by bugs again and again and again. And it keeps having to start over. But I see it's coming in pretty healthy. This leaf is all chewed up. But if I remember to come out and spray my special my own special blend of bug repellent. This is, what I did was I took my rhubarb leaves and made a tea out of it. Then, which obviously is not meant for human consumption, because we know all the rhubarb leaves are toxic to humans, as well as bugs. And then I put neem oil in there, so that's why you have the separation. And I also have Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap in there, because they don't like peppermint and they don't like soap. And then I just shake it up real good and I spray it on there, and that's helped. The main problem is I forget to keep spraying it. I just sprayed this one. As you can see, the bugs have been chewing on the lower leaves on that, but it's not doing too bad. This is the second one in size, the next one up. Now the third one is right here, and you see I've got it in pot. Right now I'm growing these all in the greenhouse because I've never had passion fruit, never grown it before. I have no idea how well it's going to do, and we're zone 8 but we're maritime, so I have no idea how well it's really going to do. So I'm going to keep them here through the winter. But anyway, this one's growing up and it's to there, so it's not too bad, you know. And considering how late they really didn't start taking off until we finally got some hot weather, which didn't really start until the middle of August. We had a few random hot days here and there that started back in May, but it wasn't until August that we got this month that we started to get a straight stretch. But now it's turned cold again, so we got 2 weeks of hot, and now I think our summer's over with already. Wow, 2 weeks of summer, isn't that nice? Shortest summer ever since I've lived here. Now down here, just kind of hanging everywhere, are some ground cherries. I've got them planted everywhere. I've got them out in various areas in the main garden. I've got them several in here. I planted some in some other garden areas, and they're not doing too well out there. But that's how I do things when I start anything new. Is I plant them. I plant it everywhere, and then see where it does best. I just think that's the best way to find out what the plant needs. Even if you read up on it, it's still not going to tell you what's perfect for your own area, your soil, your climate, until you just try it. Now, right here in the center, some of you may recognize this, is a dwarf peach tree. Now, the reason I stuck this peach tree in the greenhouse is because it was a gift from my father-in-law, and it was brought up from California. And so my assumption was this was not bred for our cold, wet area. So I stuck it in here. But I am considering moving it outside, because though it gets peaches every year, they're not the best tasting peaches, and I lose a good amount of them. Yeah, we expect fruit drop, but the thing is, they shrivel up. They start growing too early in the season, and then they stop because then the weather gets cold, and then a lot of them will shrivel up and fall off. Now, I do still have peaches, and you can see down here, but let's see, can you see those? There we go. And they're small, and these are probably, oh, they're hard. I found a ripe one the other day, but it was still green, which was weird, because they do get a peach color to them. But anyway, so I think part of the reason they do that, there's one of my ground cherries, is because of it being in the greenhouse. I think it gives it too much of an early start. And I'm just guessing, I have no idea. And I'm really hoping for some input from anyone who knows anything about peach trees and this kind of stuff. Now, the peach tree I have out in the area, I'm going to pan back over there, that's overshadowing my greenhouse. It's in a pot, and you will have seen that in another video. This thing is, considering that it's in a pot, is massive. I pruned a whole bunch of it back earlier, real early or late in the spring or early summer, and that thing has gotten has grown so big. And the reason it's in a pot is because that's not supposed to be its temporary spot, or its permanent spot. It's supposed to be temporary. Hoping to get it out in the front yard this fall. So that one's doing great, though I still have yet to get fruit on. I did get one peach one year. But anyway, the other theory I have on why this does that, and you can see these leaves, they do this about this time every year. They get this weird spotty look to them, and I don't know what that is. I have not had a chance to look it up, and so in any input, somebody can leave comments on that. I'd appreciate it. But anyway, my other theory is that because I'm growing plants on either side of it, the tomatoes and the ground cherries, usually it's just a wall of tomatoes on either side, and I'm not always good about coming out here and, you know, keeping these leaves pruned out. I'm wondering if it's just not getting enough air and light. I do try to get out here and do that, but man, you know, I'm so busy all the time. So any input would be appreciated. More of the basil I grew from seed up here in a hanging pot. And then I do keep a fan in here, which I'll be turning. It's pretty chilly out here now, not very muggy. And I turn that on, you know, when it gets hot and muggy in here, just to kind of keep the air circulating. These ground cherries, I didn't know they would get quite so big. They're not near as big out in the main garden area. And again, I think that's just like with the tomatoes. These ones are having to really reach up to get to the light. Okay, I'm getting to my 4th passion fruit. This is the best one, the biggest one. And why one took off better than the others, I don't know. But there it is in a pot. I had to bring it over and stick it on this side when I realized how big it was going to grow, so that it didn't, since this is the north side, I didn't want it overshadowing anymore. You know, we've already got too much stuff shadowing on the south side. So I put it over here. And again, I'm just going to leave these in over the winter and see how they do. And if it looks like in the spring they're going to come back pretty good, I might move one of them. Probably not this one. I might just leave this one in here. But I might move one of the other ones out somewhere. I've yet to decide. Initially I wanted to grow along a fence so it can make a beautiful kind of a hedge almost along the fence. But anyway, it goes, let's see, it's got a couple of, try and get it in there. I thought I had another shoot going somewhere. No, I guess this is the longest one. I wrapped it, it comes clear out to here. It was sticking way out this way towards me where I'm standing, and so I had stuck it back there so I could walk through. And then it finally started shooting off other vines. One there, and then one up there. Now, beans, oh, there's some more. I see some more shooting out. Here's one here. There's one down here. Oh, cool. Yeah, I obviously I'm not going to get fruit off it this year since it's, gosh, what is today? August 29th, August 30th? I don't know. I don't remember what day it is. But yeah, I'm not going to get fruit off it this year. But I've never even tried a passion fruit, so I'm really anxious to try it. Sometimes I just have to grow something, just like the ground cherries. Never tried them before. Love them, by the way. You see, I got a couple of cucumbers. I haven't been getting tons of cucumbers, but I only have a couple plants growing here, and that's okay. We don't use, we like cucumber, we just don't eat it that much. And I did, as you saw in my one video, pickle some up, and I still have more to pickle up or do something with. Maybe I'll try making a relish out of them. One more thing I want to show you is way up here. You can see that good sized cucumber right there. It's getting nice and yellow, which means that will be my seed cucumber. There you have it, and hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.